This podcast, Kingcast, hopes to bring awareness to teenagers from all over the world about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. My name is Almos. Water is essential for human survival. It is one of the most important resources for society. It is used for drinking, sanitation, irrigation, energy generation, industrial processes, and transportation. So it is clear that the availability and quality of water have a significant impact on human health.
When you look at this image, what do you see? A child aspiring to become a pilot? Well, that is airplane crazed me at the bright age of 9 years old. I don't quite remember what I liked about it the most. I don't remember whether it was piloting the plane, the thought of being in flight, or seeing different parts of the world. Anyway, as some of you probably already guessed by the sign that is almost entirely covered by my hat, this picture was taken somewhere in Britain. Growing up in Britain, I had the blessing of visiting remains of English castles, palaces, and fortresses. That was me while living in London with my Hungarian mother and my Chaldean father. While living in London, I never really considered the significance of the world outside of my circle. Though I've had the privilege to visit a lot of places thanks to my mother's adventurousness, I never really thought I'd live anywhere other than London. This is me, 2 weeks after moving to Hungary. At this time, I wasn't really bothered by the fact of moving until I realized that I will have to adapt and learn an entirely different culture, language, and world from what I was used to. Somehow I had the feeling that the more I learned about this environment, the more I learned about myself. Even though I had visited Hungary a couple of times, I was never in a situation that had forced me to learn its culture, history, but most importantly, what role the nation played with my identity. When people ask me where I'm from, I always answered in a way that let the inquirer know either where I used to live or where my parents were from. However, I never really felt the need to identify with any nationality. When I moved to Hungary, I was able to learn about my mother's culture and ethnicity that made up 50% of me. While I lived in London, I was isolated. Looking back at it now, it was almost as if I was detached from myself for knowing almost nothing about my heritage. Unfortunately, during my life, I was only able to visit Chad 3 times, 2 of which I was too young to remember. However, in the winter of 2021, I had the opportunity to visit. The experience really did shock me. Prior to that, all my ideas were given to me through stories my dad and uncles have told me. Though they had some really interesting and fun, unique stories about what it was like to grow up there, none of those stories could fully grasp what life was really like there. For some context, Chad is a rather large country with a small economy. The economy of Chad suffers from the landlocked country's geographic remoteness, drought, lack of infrastructure, and political turmoil. About 85% of the population depends on agriculture. Chad's unique cultures and unfortunate economic situation creates a world that is so drastically different from what most of us are probably used to. When I visited, I was fascinated by how different certain things are. I realized everything is taken for granted, even the most basic necessities. Just like with Hungary, I had felt like I had learned more about the reality of our world and myself. Chad is a harsh country to live in. It is entirely different from what some of us are used to. No matter how brutal the conditions in Chad are relative to ours, it is still it is still a part of our planet and what we call humanity. Yet very few know the severity of the situation, and a lot of people might never experience it. So as someone who did have the privilege to experience as part of humanity, I feel as if it is only right if I encourage everyone watching to discover the hidden parts of our planet they have connection to. As a child, you probably never really considered how your surroundings affected you for better or for worse. However, your surroundings mold you into who you are. It is a part of your identity. Without truly understanding your current environment and your roots, you might never understand why you are the way you are. Environmental awareness is an effective tool that can help us live better, more satisfying lives. We can intentionally make decisions that support our values and objectives by pausing to consider how our surroundings affect us. Understanding the significance and context of our existence and the world around us as an individual. I am blessed I am blessed to not be confined to the experience of the culture I was brought up in. So again, I asked you, when you look at this image, what do you see? I see someone whose identity is shaped by a world mixed with cultures and nations. My journey has allowed me to create an important message that I'd like to leave with you all. Talk to your family, travel the world, and find out who you are by paying attention to your environment. The small nuances of how you function in the world depend on your understanding of the world around you and within yourself. I encourage you to live in a life with intention and reflection so that you can raise your awareness and consciousness. I encourage you to stop and look at the small things in life. By stopping, you can help determine how you can show up in the world. I encourage you to stop and reflect on your life journey. It will help you shape perspectives that allow you to communicate with others. Next time you see an image, a person, or a scene of nature, ask yourself these 4 words. What do you see? Thank you for your attention.